Elliot, Longview, Texas. He said, I've seen people ask you about the biggest or your favorite stadiums, but I want to know the stuff that really matters. What are the toughest stadiums to play at? You're in luck, Elliot. I had free time on my hands today, and as you can hear, I've got the list in my hand, and so I'm just going to go 10-1 because I'm not going to go 50 stadiums deep here. Number 10, I'm putting Georgia. I'm going to give you a little bit of thinking behind each one of these. I've got Sanford Stadium, Athens, Georgia, as the 10th toughest place to play. Now, you could do the whole, well, it's toughest place to play because the team's good. Let's almost remove the quality of the team here for the sake of the venue. If we're just talking about the venue, Kirby Smart challenged them several years ago. He in a roundabout way said, guys, we are not measuring up to some of the other big-time environments on the road that we experience in the SEC. And to his fan base's credit, they responded. Because if you went to a road game in Athens in 2015 and then you went to it again in 2025, that place is like totally transformed itself. More from an attitudinal perspective, I guess. The fan base took it upon themselves to answer the challenge. They've also greatly improved their in-stadium presentation. The setting's immaculate. And you were pretty much born with that. God just kind of gave you Athens, Georgia, and then you had to make the most of it. Yeah, the team's good. But I was there last year for, I think, 2 primetime games, right? The Bama game was a primetime game. Texas was a primetime game, and it gets no better than that. That was unbelievable. So give me Georgia at number 10. Okay, I'm going to put Alabama and Bryant-Denny Stadium. I'm going to put Bama and Bryant-Denny Stadium at number 9. Toughest places to play in college football. At its best, it's unreal. The problem with Bama and the problem with that environment for a long time was they were winning so much, those people never really felt threatened. And so you'd go there for a big game, and it'd be a good, solid environment, but it would be a lot more of an event or like a spectacle or a celebration of Alabama football than it would be just a rabid environment. And now, I'm not saying they've fallen off greatly, but Bama plays a lot more close games these days. Bama is in greater threat to lose at home these days than they were in the vintage Saban years. And so if you've been to a Bama home game lately, we go to at least one every year, if not more, it's pretty off the charts. And there's the other thing when you get with Ohio State, Alabama, some of these blue blood, been there forever type programs, on average, you've got an older crowd. That doesn't mean the average age is 75, but it's not 25 either. Now, that's a blessing because that means you've been around and you've mattered for a long time and you got a lot of money. Those folks don't tend to be at the top of their lungs on third down, so you're fighting that a little bit. It's a small price to pay, but Bama's really good right now. That environment's really good right now, so I'd put it at number 9. Number 8, I know this will shock you coast to coast, but I'm going to stay in the SEC for just a second. Give me Texas A&M. Kyle Field, Texas A&M, I would put as the number 8 toughest place to play. Now, this has a green arrow pointing upwards, so I don't think that Kyle Field has peaked. I still think that they could rise on the rankings here. It's like its own planet. I know a lot of you haven't been there. You need to go. I need to see if I can get you credentialed and we can get some sideline passes for you, and you can just stand there and you can experience this place. There are a lot of places that are loud. Kyle Field is loud too. It's deafening. But it's like you're on Mars watching a football game. Now, this is complimentary to A&M. People try and hate on them, and I have long since shared my difference of opinion with people who talk about cult-like behavior and talk about this and that. That's just tradition to me. That's just setting yourself apart from the rest of the world to me. So I appreciate that. I love that it's not homogenized and it's not like a plug and play, just like every other place you would go on Saturday. But it's the most disorienting venue in college football. To me, if you can go in there, you can stand on a field and you can look up. When they do the war hymn, when they sway back and forth, it's like 110,000 people doing it. And your senses aren't really used to, first off, noise like that, but then your senses visually aren't used to seeing that. It's like back in the day when they had those 3D puzzle books and you'd have to stare at it for a second and you'd cross your eyes and, oh, there goes the picture. It's popping out at me. And then you uncross your eyes and it takes a second for you to adjust again. Or, if you've been on a merry-go-round and you get off of it, you're dizzy. It takes a second to adjust. That's how it feels to me when I'm looking up at the crowd at Kyle Field. And I don't even have to complete a pass on third down. So it's not the easiest place in the world to play. I think it needs more love. Give me Kyle Field at number 8. At number 7, I think we're going to get controversial here, But just trust me, I am a great source on this. I've been to this place many times. Jordan-Hare Stadium, Auburn, Alabama. I would put Jordan-Hare Stadium at Auburn at number 7 with caveats. So I have little stars written on the page here. It needs to be a good year for Auburn. And in an ideal world, we would have Georgia or Alabama in town. I could make the argument that Auburn in a good year with Georgia or especially Alabama in town is actually the toughest place to play in college football. There will be doubters on that, and I understand because we're splitting hairs at a certain point. But if you've ever kind of been there for that environment, if you've been there for that kind of occurrence, I don't think people who have experienced that push back on it a whole lot. And I go to all these places, and I've seen big games in every place that I'm going to talk about here. It's very, very loud. It's very intimidating, really tough road accommodations for the visiting team, all of that. But also, and I don't know how to explain this, I can't quantify it, it's the place for a visiting team when the home team's good that makes you feel like you're playing uphill the most. Kind of feels like the field is tilted figuratively against you a little bit more than your typical road environment. Some people just call that black magic, dark magic. I don't know. I've seen evidence for and against, and so I can't prove that. I just know Auburn's a really tough place to play. And then, mark my words, there will be people who agree with me on that when everyone else is disagreeing, who will now disagree with me on number 6, because I've got Washington at number 6. Washington just blew me away when I went up there a few years ago. Obviously, I grew up in the South, so I knew very little about Washington football. I would listen to like Cowherd when he would talk about West Coast football back in the day, and he would say, yeah, all the SEC places, those are really tough to play. There's some good Big Ten venues, but Washington's the most underrated one in all of college football. And I'd listen to that, and I would just think it's West Coast bias. It's notorious in college football. And I just wouldn't believe it. It was a simple math equation for me. You're telling me they've got like 50 or 60% of the capacity of some of these places in the South and the Big Ten, and yet it's deafening there. So I went up there a couple of years ago, and sure enough, they were right. If anything, they undersold it a little bit. Just an amazing, amazing, picturesque environment, and that's before they opened the gates, and then they opened the gates, and the place is deafening. Can't hear anything. You can talk about architecture, whatever you want to explain it. It is what it is. And so you're not able to hear anything, and yet you can also see the ocean. I don't really know anywhere else I can say that. So it has to be the right time, because there will be teams that have gone in there to play, like a non-high-level matchup, and they'll say, well, we went and played at Washington, and it was okay, but it's really overrated. It's not what these people say it is. Well, look, all due respect, I don't think there have been many vintage Oregon State teams that went in there that got the kind of environment that Oregon got a few years ago. I was there for the Oregon game, so it blew my mind. Number 5, and we got to be careful here, and this is really where we got to call on John Summerall, friend of the program, possible Speaker Series participant this spring, to resurrect the attitude, to resurrect, dare I say, the reputation of the swamp. So I'm putting Florida at number 5. Quick 5-second timeout. Check and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It keeps it free. We love you. All right, back to the show. Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, or as we call it on the streets, the swamp at Florida, at its best, borderline unmatched in college football. Here's the problem that's very obvious. It hasn't been at its best enough. So we're kind of creeping further and further down the road where we have to explain to people who are younger why this venue is on this list. Now, if you're 35 years old, you know why this venue is on this list, because you heard it. You've witnessed it when Urban Meyer was there, or maybe you're a little bit older, you're a generation older, and you witnessed it when Steve Spurrier was there. Well, not much has changed about the place. It's still the same. So you know what it's capable of. You know what it wants to be. It just hasn't had enough reason to consistently be that. But it can be. Noise, and then also this is one of those few places that also weather can regularly creep in and affect how tough it is to play there, because Florida just gets to live in that all year. Like everything that you would think Tennessee had to deal with traveling to Ohio State a couple of years ago for the playoff when it comes to cold weather. Well, if you turn that entirely upside down, You go play in Gainesville, you're liable to have to deal with the opposite end of the meteorological spectrum. What about number 4? Number 4, I've been blessed to take in several games here now. Oregon. Autzen Stadium, Oregon. Number 4 toughest place to play in college football for me right now. Again, kind of like with Washington. There will be doubters. I know this because I get pushed back all the time when I talk about how tough it is to play at Autzen Stadium. And then you come to find out like 95% of the doubters have never been there. So all they're doing is the thing I used to do when I was growing up. Well, the capacity is like 60,000, 54,000. There's just no way. I don't know how else to explain this to you. Yes, there is a way. You just have to go experience it for yourself. Insane volume. But also, there's something above and beyond just the volume there. Energy, which you would think is synonymous with noise, and it's not always. I mean, because you could stand still and yell. They don't stand still and yell at Oregon. So a lot of movement, a lot of energy, a lot of juice in the crowd. I remember a couple of years ago when we were up there for the Ohio State game, and at halftime, I think I've told this story before, halftime I go and I talk to some esteemed dignitaries who are in attendance from Ohio State, and they were blown away by the environment. And their attitude was, I'm glad we traveled so well out here. I'm glad so many of our people made the trip out here because they need to experience this. Because they admitted, we kind of lag behind when it comes to game day environment. Now, this is 2 years ago, so Ohio State's taken steps since then. But I mean, Oregon and the trip to Oregon, it almost like serves as a palate cleanser for a lot of other game day operations people. And they'll send their folks out there and say, hey, go to Oregon. Get a load of that and then come back here and bring me 10 good, fresh ideas. What about number 3? Numero tres. Penn State. Under construction right now. Penn State, Beaver Stadium. I think the whiteout there is the most amazing spectacle we have to offer in college football. And since college football is the best sport on the face of the earth, by default, the whiteout at Penn State is the best spectacle in all of sports. Confirmed. So, when we went up there for the whiteout game a few years ago, I came back and I think I did a solid 10 minutes just on what it was like. Because it was my first one and I had heard about it, and it's one of those rare instances in life where something's really, really hyped and you experience it and somehow it exceeds the hype. And I remember I was trying to explain to buddies who had not been there why it's different. Above and beyond just the volume. The volume's off the charts. There was this other element. And the best way I could describe it is it was like 110. What is it, Jesse? What's capacity? Like 106,000. Call it 110, standing room only. So like 110,000 people who just perfectly accept that they have a role to play. And there's no wasted seat. There's no wasted space in there. Everyone goes in there and they almost go in there like they have a job to do. And I know every fan base thinks they do that. Penn State just does it better than the rest of you. So it was like a high-level football game and a rock concert and WrestleMania in terms of spectacle, just witnessing that all at the same time. It's unbelievable. I'm putting LSU at number 2 with a caveat of my own. Now, we're splitting hairs at this point. I got LSU, Tiger Stadium, as the number 2 toughest places to play in college football. If you just gave me night games at LSU, LSU would be number 1 on this list. But I have to factor in all elements here. So LSU, let me be very clear, if I take it at its best, if I put Bama in there on a Saturday night, there's no place like Tiger Stadium, big game on a Saturday night. But your noon kickoffs, your 3:30, sometimes if I have to throw those in the blender, maybe it brings it down just a little bit, but coming down to number 2 is still really good. Just think about these elements being thrown into that blender. Think about that as a concept. Louisiana on a Saturday night, and now Lane Kiffin's the head coach there with the number 1 portal class in America. Sam Leavitt, ready to pull the trigger at quarterback. I got great frontline players. I got great secondary depth in that portal class. Maybe some mystery third candidates. Who is this year's Trinidad Chambliss? Who's going to be the first person to print that headline? We'll see. But I get all that thrown into the same equation. And I know it's March right now. April, May, June, July, August, September. We got a little ways, but it's going to happen. Do we have kickoff time for the Clemson game, Jesse? I know they play Clemson in week 1. They're at last check, about a 10 to a 10.5 point favorite at FanDuel, our friendly neighborhood odds provider. Night kickoff. So, we have that confirmed, Jesse? Oh, because I don't want to be misquoted about kickoff times in March. TBA. Okay, TBA, which means it could be possibly a night kickoff. I guess we don't even probably know what day they're going to play. They move that stuff around all the time. Number one, has been for a while for me, Neyland Stadium. I got Tennessee, and Neyland Stadium is the toughest place to play in college football. At its best, I've never witnessed anything like it. Now, I have seen Neyland Stadium at its best. I would call the Georgia game last year and the Bama game in 22 and 24 the best I've ever seen college football. Deafening noise, the most hostile environment, especially for the 2022 Alabama game, just like Roman Coliseum, kill, bloodthirst type afternoon that you really don't get to witness anymore. When you hear your grandfather talk about how it used to be that way, no, man, it's been that way in the last 4 or 5 years in Neyland Stadium, and they took Alabama down after, 15 consecutive losses or something like that, and there was just this overflow of emotion. It changed me. It shaped me. It is the spectacle, the game, the experience through which I judge all other stadium experiences. So Neyland Stadium, at its best, is without equal in college football. And Bill Martin, the last 3 or 4 sound bites were for you, my friend.